G'day guys, how you going? Hope you're well. I kind of want to make this quick, but I've got a bit to get through. So let's get to it. I mean, this is the fourth last preview for 2025, and it's going to come to an end pretty quickly. I'm not probably in the position like a lot of supporters that I want the season to end, just get it over and done with so we can start to make changes. I'm happy for it to keep going. I really am. But at the same time, I do have one eye, and I look at this team on the weekend. It's going to take the park, going to take the field against Fremantle, and there's just so much uncertainty around it. And it's got nothing to do with the game against Fremantle. It's got nothing to do with it at all. I mean, I look at the odds going into this game, and the game's still 2 hours away, and the teams haven't been finalised. That will happen a little bit later on, probably by the time I get this video out. The final squad or the final team has been announced, but I did look at those odds, and we are like $7 on Sportsbet. I can't remember the last time we were that long, and I'm not necessarily into betting, but I look at Fremantle $1.10 and we're $7, and I think, when was the last time? And if you'd have said at the start of the year, even if you had reservations about us going into this year, because I think there'll be a few people who had reservations about Fremantle as well. But if you'd have said by round 21, whatever it is, we're going across to Perth against the Fremantle Dockers at a ground and an opposition that we have a really good record against, and we have really good games against them at that venue, that we would be rank outsiders at $7, and you said that's what would happen, I reckon you'd be a genius. You really would be. That is, oh man, that's out there. But anyway, before I get onto the game and a couple of other issues I want to talk about, can I just give a quick shout out to the boys from the Jumper Punch, great mates of mine. Their show's on every Tuesday night. It is Bigger Than Ben Hur, starts at 7, finishes at 3 in the morning. It's just a marathon of discussion and entertainment and laughs. I've been on the show 3 times over the last 3 years. Haven't had a chance to go on there this year. It is actually, I'm in Werribee, they're in Reservoir. And although they're similar demographics, working class areas, it feels like it's on the opposite side of the world. It is a fair way away. I just haven't had the chance this year. Time is running out. Hopefully, because I do get along with them really well, have a lot of fun there. Rocco, Mars, Paul, in the studio, in Reservoir. But listen to this. I'll put the poster up, because this is exciting. This gets the juices flowing. And this is on Saturday the 30th of August. Now, I've checked the fixture. Does that coincide with the last game of the year or the week after? Is that the bye before the finals? Anyway, Saturday the 30th of August at the Howler in Brunswick. Geez, I've had some nights there at the Howler. That is a great venue, not far from Princes Park. Between 6 and 11 p.m. They have this huge live show, and I reckon they've had 3 or 4 live shows, the Jumper Punch, and every time they have a live show, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and this one is the biggest of them all. It's to send the season off, really, and the panel. I mean, this is next level guests. And I don't think, really, when you look at this panel, I mean, obviously there's bigger, but maybe not as interesting. Not as interesting. And the stories that could be told from this trio is unbelievable. So I got Brad Pearce. Started off in the St Kilda under 19s. Gun cricketer. I remember that. He was a gun cricketer. Went to play footy in Queensland. Got picked up by the Brisbane Lions. Played 2 games there, and then we got him across to the Blues. And he came across with no fanfare at all. It was almost like, who the hell's this Brad Pearce? And next thing you know, he was a revelation for about 2 or 3 years. But 1995 in that forward line, Bradley Pearce, he owned and ran the high 5 bar. Used to see him there quite a bit. when I used to go see some bands. But he was a lad, but he could play the game. He could play the game, super quick on the lead, beautiful left foot kick, little bit of X factor, and a great, I don't know, like a great foil and a point of difference for Earl Sporting and Stephen Kernahan and Matt Clappe. It was a gun team in 1994. Bradley Pearce, what a pickup that is for the jumper punch. He's Scotland, one of my all-time favourites, the boy from Darley. Came across from Collingwood, forged out a terrific career across halfback, best and fairest winner. I reckon he's got some stories to tell. Still heavily involved in football at local level. And, I mean, really, does it get any bigger from a live, on-stage point of view than Brendan Favola, 2 times Coleman medalist, one of the more iconic and controversial figures in the history of the Carlton Football Club, but could genuinely play the game in an era which was maybe not too dissimilar to what it is now. You'd like to think we're a lot more professional now, but there's some kind of similarities to what is going on at the moment to what Brendan Favola experienced through his time at the football club. That is magnificent. So there's the poster. Get in contact with the boys. Check out their social, because that's one you probably don't want to miss. It really isn't. Anyway, let's move on, because we have got a game to play, and it's I don't want, as I said, I don't want the year to finish. I don't. I love my footy. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I want to suck the marrow out of the bone, but there is this kind of urgency. There is this urgency for the season to finish, so we can start to see the real change, because you're not necessarily getting that now. It's almost like you were searching when you were a kid. You come Christmas, it's a week or two out from Christmas, and you started searching for your Christmas presents, looking everywhere, under beds, in cupboards, asking questions, all that type of stuff, and you never quite got an answer. And then when the Christmas, this is at our house anyway, then when they were wrapped and put under the tree, you started sort of squeezing them and touching them and trying to guess, and you just wanted Christmas Day to come. And then Christmas Day come, and then you open your presents, and it was all a bit of an anticlimax. No, I shouldn't say that. We always had great Christmases at 24 Hayford Crescent in Hoppers Crossing. That's not my address now. That's where we used to live. But we had the best Christmases. But the lead up, it was like, speculation, and that's what it's like at the moment, because you are hearing things. You're only hearing things through the media, rumours, as I mentioned, speculation. And when you look at this team, guys, and that's all it is. That's all it is. And don't get too defensive about it either. Don't play the victim. We're all expecting change. We're all demanding change. We all want change to get better. How much change, we don't know. It could be big, it could be medium, it could be small, but there will be change. I'm expecting it to be pretty significant. And when I mean significant, not from just a playing point of view, but definitely through coaches and administration as well. So we expect to see some widespread changes right across the football club, but we're just going to have to wait and see exactly what that looks like. But it's hard not to imagine what it may look like. And we have to, I suppose, just trust that one of the best in the business in Graham, right? As they say, will have his feet under the desk very shortly. I'm sure he's already got his feet well and truly under the desk, and he's starting to really sort of nut it out and have a really good look at this football club and what is needed to get us back, get us on track, because what we've been dishing up throughout season 2025 and at the back end of last year, and the inconsistency with this club for a long period of time is just completely unacceptable. So as much as we've got a game of football, 4 games to go, I look at this team that's going to take the park, take the field at Optus Stadium, last game of round 21. and just think it's going to take an absolute miracle, and really doesn't matter. Like, it might matter for, I don't even know if a decision's been made on Michael Voss. I really don't know. But you would think if a decision hasn't been made just yet, that he would be absolutely desperate for this team not to put up the white flag. And when you look at this team and the uncertainty around a lot of these players, as I put this team up now for you guys to see, and you've probably already seen it, I mean, the sprinkling of newly signed young crop, I want to take them out of the picture. I really do. Because essentially they will become, hopefully, the backbone of the football club moving forward, but certainly are our future. The club have made a specific decision to go along the boyhood blue brigade, the baby blue brigade, and that coincided with our really bad loss to Collingwood. But I think it's coincided with also speculation around Jack Silvani, which I'll get to shortly, Charlie Kernahan, and then now this tendency from our PR machine to really try and tug at the heartstring of supporters, that it's about the future, it's about these young players investing in the football club, but not just the young players, but players who grew up barracking for the football club, which is kind of ironic considering what we might be hearing about Jack Silvani. But look at it, like the uncertainty. And this is what happens when players have such kind of underwhelming seasons. But then you look at them, they're still in the team. And I know we're hamstrung at the moment through injuries, but there are some players in the twos who'll play at Frankston on a Saturday evening out there. I'm actually thinking about going to that game, who you think could have come in. Now, I just thought with Doherty announcing his retirement, it was a perfect opportunity, and he's not on the injury list. I assume he's okay. It was a perfect opportunity to get a couple more games into Billy Wilson. So I can only assume that if he can't get a game in this team, and I know there needs to be a balance, but really, what are we playing for now? I can't believe he can't come in. Now, if Adam Saad, who is contracted for next year, who's been named to play in this team, who's hardly got out of second gear so far this season, and there's now question marks on his body that he is cooked, why on earth would we be playing him rather than giving an opportunity to Billy Wilson? What is there to lose on that? And I can only assume that being at the club for 2 years, okay, let's have a look at this, guys. These are the players out of contract. Billy Wilson, still young, 20 years of age, played one game this year, and it was a bizarre night against Port Adelaide. It was almost like he was hardly out there. So much so that I actually thought he was subbed out of the game. Yeah, subbed out of the game. And he has not come back. He has not come back into this team when you would have thought that there has been opportunities for him to come in. Same with Blake Acres. If his body's cooked, if he's sore, if he's been carrying this for the whole year, what is the point of him going across to the West and playing this game other than for Michael Voss to try and win a game of football or be competitive in a game of football to keep his job? I can't think of any other reason. So, because that spot could go to Lucas Camporelli, surely. I know it makes it young. I know it does. But if these guys aren't cooked, if they're not sore, if they're not carrying injuries, so Sard and Akers, then we can only assume if they're right to go, that their careers are just about done. And they're both contracted. Because the only explanation for them playing so badly and underwhelming this year is if their bodies were just not up to AFL this year for some reason, that they're experiencing something physically which is stopping them being at their best. Because it's pointless playing them in these games when you could be pumping some games into the youngsters, particularly someone like Billy Wilson. So I can't think of a reason why Billy Wilson, if he hasn't signed already, will be at the club in 2025, unless he's delisted and they give him an opportunity to train and he's re-rookied. I cannot think how he could be at the club in 2026. Okay? And you look at that, the future. Look at the future. Like, how many of these players are actually contracted is kind of a worry. Zach Williams contracted. Lockie Fogarty contracted. We know the issues around Harry, and hopefully he can get his act together. We really do. But it's an uncertain next 4 or 5 weeks for Harry Mackay and what the future looks like for him. Mark Pitnet contracted for the next 2 or 3 years. Lewis Young, named here on the extended bench, still contracted for next year. Corey Durden, still contracted for next year. Jackson Binns, I know he's young, but still contracted for next year. Jordan Boyd, who's hardly fired a shot in 2025, been ignored. He's still contracted for next year. And then all the other guys, I can only assume that they rolled him out this week with a fluffy piece that Will White, with his passion for the football club, he explained it like he was a fan every time he runs out to represent the football club, that he will sign. He will sign at least a contract. Flynn Young, I think, will be at the football club. I don't think you can bring a player in the mid-season draft and just flick him and not give him an opportunity. But we've seen it before, and we may see it again. I'm unsure. Francis Evans, I think, unfortunately, for the kid, well, he's not a kid anymore, 23 years of age. I think it might be curtains for him. But I don't know, guys. Like, what are you expecting from that team this week against a team such as Fremantle, who have got everything to play for? Everything. And really, I know some teams, and we saw it last night with the GWS Giants. Wasn't that disgusting? I sort of sat there watching that game with the Giants, and I thought to myself, you can overplay the Bulldogs' performance and just get too excited about it, like too excited. They're a good team, the Bulldogs. And you could also just sit back and go, well, they just had such a bad night, the Giants. But I got this feeling about the Giants that they would stink it up in the grand final if they got there and put in a performance like that. Maybe I'm being affected by Sydney, and the fact that Sydney have got to the last day in September and just been so just uncompetitive. And that kind of reminded me of what the Giants were last night. It was just like, you can have your bad games, but they had a stench to it. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about that. Fremantle, the opposition. I must admit, this is a nice little time slot. Sunday, kind of 5:15, whatever it is. You don't want the weekend to end. You can sit down, have some dinner, sit down with the family, watch the game. There's not going to be any nerves associated to this game. I am looking forward to watching. I love watching Patrick Voss and Josh Tracy play. They're sort of, I'm not calling them twin towers, but you chuck Jai and Miss in there as well. Switkowski, Michael Frederick and Shai Bolton. That is some seriously good firepower when they're on, and they play with, particularly Voss and Tracy, they play with such energy. So that is a handful. And I kind of think that's why Lewis Young has been named on that extended bench. I've just got this feeling he's going to play. To expect Harry O'Farrell to take one of either Patrick Voss or Josh Tracy, given their size and strength, is probably a difficult prospect for the kid. And I can't see Nick Haynes. He's not a great one-on-one defender. So maybe Young comes in, which makes us pretty cumbersome. But who really cares? It doesn't matter. But I am looking forward to watching them two play. And they're not dropping this game. It could be a similar situation. To last week's game against Hawthorn. They may jump us. They'll be far too good for us. And given it's a precarious position at the moment inside that top 8. They wouldn't want to be taking their foot off the pedal, but they may be in a situation after half time just to put the cue in the rack a little bit and just do enough to, get them over the line. Because I don't necessarily think, I didn't see us throw in the towel last week against Hawthorn. We were just out-muscled and bullied and harassed, and our leaders didn't step up at the right time. So anyway, I don't want to talk about the game because it doesn't really matter. The 4 points here is not really a concern. So I'm going to finish on what I'm looking forward to the most, guys. And that is, I'm going to put it up for myself here. That is the situation regarding Jack Silvani. And I don't have a strong opinion about him leaving the football club. And what I mean by that is we don't own him. We don't own Jack Silvani. And it's his life. It's his life. It's his football career. And I can understand certain sections of the Carlton football fan base who will be deeply hurt about this. He's one of their favourites, and he's one of our own who's decided to leave the football club, and there's all this hysteria about what the club has done wrong and why would someone who's a third-generation Blue, who's played 100 games and he's grown up a Carlton supporter would want to walk out on the club. If that's the case, and of course, he's out of contract. He's out of contract. He's a restricted or unrestricted free agent. He's got every right to meet with other clubs. He's got every right. And I'm not going to get into the contract, the fact that we've put a 4-year deal on the table for him, and so have Collingwood. It's a similar deal. It's his right. It's his right to do whatever he wants with his life and his football career. I actually think it's a really ballsy, I only think this, I don't know this, but I think it's a really ballsy and courageous decision by Jack Silvani actually to leave the club. I think the easiest and most comfortable and safest thing for Jack Silvani to do personally probably would to be hang around at the club. And that's might all it be. He could be just hanging around at the club, kind of not overly happy, but it's a kind of safe place to be. He'll know he'll be at our football club for the next 4 years. He'll know he'll probably get a game. He'll know this. He'll know the supporters will love him and all this type of stuff, and it is safe. But to get up and to test the waters and to potentially go to our biggest rivals, Collingwood, or any club for that matter, given the hysteria and given potentially the backlash, man, I actually take my hat off to him. I really do. And I don't begrudge him. And I certainly don't. And I think he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. This is not about how valuable he is to us. Because I still feel if he stays at the footy club, he's a good player. He's a good player. But this is an opportunity for him to make a decision. And you know what? It's his decision. Who are we to judge it? He's got to live with the decisions he makes, just like you and I have to live with the decisions that we make. This is an opportunity for him. He's been given an opportunity, one, to either stay at the football club or go to another football club. Who knows his reasons? Maybe his reasons will come out in time. If it is the fact that he's unhappy at the club, all right? He's unhappy at the club because of the environment, the culture, whatever that may be, or he just wants a change. He's had enough. He just wants a change. He wants something different for himself. That's a good thing for him. But he will ultimately, once his football career is finished, he will live and die by the decisions he makes in his own life. And that's his responsibility and his right. Okay, not ours. So go for it. Go for it. And in fact, when I really think about it, I think it's great for both parties. It may shine a light, an extra light. Okay, not in a positive way, but in a negative way about what we are and what we have become. All right, but it also gives us an opportunity it does give us an opportunity to reset. It really does. And it gives us an opportunity to break that cycle, So that's my feeling. What I am looking forward to, guys, and I must be honest, more so than the game, is Michael Voss's press conference, which I believe will take place tomorrow on Saturday at Optus Stadium when the team have a captain's run, which is open to the public. Now, Michael Voss has spoken before every game this year in a press conference. Now, he's going to be asked about Jack Silvani just like he was asked about Charlie Kernahan last week. It is a given. A reporter will ask and hopefully follow us up as well. But it's going to be 110%, it's going to be asked. Maybe our very smart PR team, will prep Michael Voss on what he's allowed to say. Who bloody knows? But I guarantee you one thing, the PR machine at Collingwood didn't prep Craig McRae in his response to the question regarding Jack Silvani. He just openly came out, said that he's met with Jack and he would like to meet again. Super honest. You might think it's smug. You might think it's cheeky, but that's what we want. We kind of want honesty because I just believe last week, I don't know how honest that response was with Charlie Kernahan. We'd have to have rocks in your head to think that Charlie hasn't at least tested the waters and asked a question. And the club have just nipped it in the bud because it's going to be impossible really, for it to happen. Who knows, it might happen. He's out for the rest of the year now, going to have surgery. Just shows you how desperate we were to try and play finals football this year, doesn't it? That we may have been playing just an injured Charlie Kernahan for predominantly the whole year. We just forced him out in the park, week in, week out, sore. I'm only guessing that. Okay, that mightn't be fact. But anyway, that's what it looks like. But he's going under the knife for the next 4 weeks. But this is what Michael Voss said. I find this just so interesting. Because he could have used other language. You know, so when he was asked the question about Charlie Kernahan, he said, he could have just said he's contracted. He's contracted to the football club. And I know they want to put some mayonnaise on it. They want to make it a little bit more emotive. But this is what Michael Voss said, and this is all he said about Charlie Kernahan. And he said it was emphatic. And not sure how emphatic I need to be. Charlie's a Carlton man, and he'll stay a Carlton man. Charlie's a very important person to us, and he'll play out his career here. Obviously, he's a very important player to us because he's valuable. All right, he's valuable. I mean, Matthew Carroll is a Carlton person. He grew up a Carlton person, didn't he? Matthew Carroll grew up a Carlton person, but he spent 1 year at the football club last year in the rehab room, never got onto the park because his hips were fucked, and the club delisted him. The only reason they put him back on the list because they gave him an opportunity to train with them over the pre-season, and he was unbelievable on the track. They couldn't ignore him. So we know why a player is important. It's their value as a footballer. But Charlie is a Carlton man and he'll stay a Carlton man. He then repeated, he's a Carlton person and he will stay one. It's very emotive language. And once again, it's the club pulling at the heartstrings. So what will he say in regards to Jack, given that it's out there now that he's met with Collingwood? You don't meet with other clubs, okay, unless you have maybe a desire to leave. And you would think, given the history of the Silvanis at the Carlton Football Club, you would just think that if you wanted to describe someone as a Carlton person and a Carlton man, that it'd be Jack Silvani. You would think that. So what is Voss going to say this week when he's asked that question? Because what can he say? What can he say? So if Jack wants to leave, like he wants to leave, and he's talking to other clubs, or he has a desire to leave, or he's testing the waters, I'd like to hear the club say that. I'd like to hear the club say that. That's the reality of the situation. But don't kind of lie to us. Don't lie to us. Don't lie. It doesn't help the situation. It really doesn't. Be honest. Okay, get on the front foot and be honest and tell us what it is, because you've just told us that Charlie Kernahan is a Carlton person and he'll stay one. What makes Charlie Kernahan a Carlton man and a Carlton man only? Because I thought that was Jack Silvani. That's what really he should be labelled as. Anyway, guys, take care. Speak soon. Looking forward to listening to Michael Voss's press conference. Take care. Bye-bye.